Hello and welcome to Issue Film. You might have noticed that it's a smaller issue this month, but don't worry, where it matters, it's big. Broadcast withdrawals aside, in this month's issue we've got our very first short film, more pictures from another featured photographer, and of course, this very special podcast with Nadiah and Mo from Wayang Works. Nadiah and Mo are a husband and wife team of filmmakers and the minds behind Hujan Panas, a short film set in New York that you may have noticed making the social media rounds not so long ago. They're no dip your toes in first amateurs, I can tell you that. The both of them are seasoned creative professionals who have had plenty of experience making video content, TVCs, dramas, music videos. It wasn't an easy journey for them to set up Wayang Works, and in the podcast they share their story. Listen on.
I didn't realize that you guys were married
before
we came here.
Okay.
So it's more like, do you guys work together, or is it just a case of two people who are in film who happen to be together?
We sort of work together. She was my client. I was working in a post-production house doing audio, and she was a copywriter at McCann's Erickson.
Yeah.
And we were doing a job for a TVC.
Yeah. So we came from advertising.
Right, both of you.
Yeah, both of us.
And after that, we kind of sort of met at the Muse concert.
Yeah, that's how we met.
In KL?
In KL,
Yeah.
and bonded over music. And then I left for New York. And then you just started working on my student films because I was
Yeah,
On
you needed free audio.
I needed I needed like this free sound engineer or sound editor, and he was okay. Of course, he had to do it for me. So I think that's your start into like film. If not, it was just like commercials then.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I graduated early 2011.
Yeah.
I came back, and I actually went to New York on a government scholarship, so I kind of spent a year in Penang teaching.
Okay.
But we had started Wayang Works back in 2010 because I was trying to raise money for my film, my final student film, like my thesis film.
Yeah.
And I came back for a summer and went to all these production houses, went to so many people. I couldn't raise enough. I just could not get anyone to donate any money
Yeah.
for a short film.
Right.
So I came back to the States, and at that point, crowdfunding or crowdsourcing had just like kicked off.
Yeah.
So it was this website, Kickstarter.
Kickstarter, yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, I guess we have to set up something so that people would recognize us.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so
to make it kind of legit.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, why don't we call this collective or whatever Wayang Works?
So Wayang Works was basically anchored to that first project. The film.
Yes, the first
Was
project.
it Hujan Panas?
Yes,
Yeah.
Hujan Panas.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we raised enough money on Kickstarter, and I made the film, and I finished it. I graduated, and I came back, and then people were starting to ask, okay, what are you guys gonna do next?
Yeah.
And then we were like, wait a second, we're not actually a company. It was just for fun.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, maybe we can do something with this. So when I came back, Astro had just started this MV music video grant program thing, where they would give money to all these filmmakers and match you up with a musician, and then you come up with a music video.
Yeah.
So that's what I did with Reza Saleh.
Yeah.
That was the very first thing that I worked on when I came back here. And you weren't even on the project. You were just like, okay, you'll just download files onto the computer. I'll just help you around. And then what happened?
And then we started doing music videos. We did one for S3.
Yeah, and by that time we thought, okay, I think we can make money, or we can be a legit production company.
All of this was done under Wayang Works.
Under Wayang Works,
Okay.
yeah. Actually, that was like the pinnacle of the company.
The very first thing that we kind of like.
Properly did as a
Yes.
company, where you're
As
like,
a
we're a
company,
company and
yeah.
we're doing this. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey.
So that was like early 2012, and then
That was January 2012.
yeah.
Wow. So
That's
it's
how
not
pretty
that's
much-
not that far away. Has this been your primary job and your bread and butter for the past year?
After the Strange music video, I quit my job
In Penang?
In Penang,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, I'm like, my hometown is Penang,
Mhm.
so that's why. choose to teach in Penang, but I quit that job and
A couple of the tellies. You did some
I did a
directing job.
few telemovies for Astro,
Uh-huh.
and then we got this commercial job for
The MCMC,
Yeah,
which is Suruhanjaya
Okay.
Komunikasi.
Yeah.
Media.
yeah, which was like a series of videos in all these kampongs about these people with businesses and how their businesses have flourished with the
Help
use
of
of
broadband.
internet or the help of broadband.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then we were like toying around with like TV programs and stuff, but we weren't.
Were you guys comfortable with going anywhere? Like if a client came to you and offered something, were you ready to say yes, or were you guys like, this is what we do?
Normally, how it works is we always come up. I mean, the client will of course come with their product and how kind of a rough idea, but we always come up with our own treatment and how we would like to shoot it.
Okay.
And, to make it ours.
I think at first we wanted to do more content creation for TV, but then we had really bad experiences.
Oh, okay.
So that's how we tried to like maneuver ourselves back into commercials.
Yeah. So it's fun to try things out and see what it's like.
No, it's not very lucrative, or I don't know.
I think people are more passionate in the commercial world about their work, their job, the arts.
Yeah.
It's funny. We thought it wasn't gonna be that way because like Hollywood and all, and film has always been like more art based.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it here. Everything is so like packaged and everything is like. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in commercial, people are trying to start.
So you find that there's more creative freedom
Yeah,
in
people are pushing
commercials.
boundaries.
I mean, you can
trying
do a
new
lot
stuff.
more in commercials. The budget is bigger.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's the best level of professionalism in the production world.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that TV is a bad thing. It's just
No.
that we'd rather work in commercials.
That is an interesting kind of view into the culture here, where you see it's kind of the opposite elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you almost wonder why is it
commercial
that-
is always like the lowest, and then
Yeah,
you
but-
Yeah.
yeah.
take
Because you
movies
think
and
the stakes
TV.
would be higher with advertising, that they'd be more rigid and packaged.
Yeah.
But maybe because they're like, oh, we have so much
Yeah.
to play with. Why don't
Yeah.
we play with it?
I don't know how it's like on the ground with Malaysian films or TV or commercials, but we can actually that's our last question because I think it's like a can of worms. So maybe we can address that towards the end. Before that, we just want to get to know
You
what you
guys.
guys are like. The second question was basically, what kind of filmmakers or what kind of
Creatives.
creatives or artists would you guys brand yourselves as, and where is Wayang Works now?
We're
How would
very
you
much
describe
like
it?
a narrative based, I think.
Narrative based.
We're not very, I don't know, experimental. Is that the word?
No.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're not very experimental, so we don't really do animation or motion graphics
Yeah.
or anything crazy.
For the time being, with just two of us.
Mm.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. What's your team like? Is it just the two of you?
Right now, it's just the two of us to keep the overhead low.
Okay.
But when we have a project, then we get freelancers on
I
board.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what are both of your roles in Wayang Works? Who does what? And
Between the two of us, she's always the director.
yeah.
And I always produce. But between the two of us, we would edit. We would do sound as well.
Yeah, and we also do a lot of conceptualization.
Yeah, a lot of writing.
A lot of writing.
That's the bulk of it. The
Yeah.
conceptualization.
I just wanted to ask you, Nadiah, what was it like studying filmmaking in New York, and then what was it like coming back to
Oh, okay.
Malaysia?
So I did my master's degree in film in New York.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like an undergrad degree. So when I went into the program, everybody was much older than I was. I went when I was like 23,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I would be old, but no. And everybody was really serious about their art and really in the program to actually learn their craft. So it was really fun to be in an environment where everybody was like striving to be creative.
Yeah.
And I really loved my script writing classes. Like,
Yeah.
Everybody's like helping you out to make your story better, and you have like endless discussions of how your story should go, or what your characters would do.
Kind of a luxury that you would normally be afforded when
Yeah,
you're
I
actually
know,
doing a
I know.
proper project.
Yeah. And then it's like, you come up with like, you're expected to come up with like student films, but like being in NYU, it's like one of the best film schools. So your film has to come up to a certain standard.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be able to do that, like to come up with products that I can actually sell or use as my calling cards. And then every weekend, people would just in New York, people would come out and work for free just for experience. Like you could get experience, or you could get people to come and work on your film, like complete strangers. Like my film Hujan Panas, by that time a lot of people had moved on because there's only 3 years of you go to school for 3 years.
Yeah.
And you go to classes and stuff like that, but after your 3rd year, it's like, okay, you're matriculated, but everybody kind of goes off and does their own thing.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky to have all these strangers just come on board to work on my film. They didn't even go to NYU. Yeah, and they worked for free, and that's like a big luxury, because when I came here, it was really hard.
Was it?
Yeah, it's like everything is ringgit and cents. Even if it's for a simple thing, like it's really hard asking for favors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find people who like, hey, do you want to come aboard this project? We're going to do this really cool thing. It's for free.
Whereas in New York, you find people who just want to put stuff in their CV and
yes,
just help
yes,
out and
just
be
to
part
get
of
experience,
it, right?
just to get experience, yeah.
When you went to New York to study and to be a filmmaker, was it like your identity as a filmmaker? Did you already know what kind of films, what kind of artist you wanted to be, or was that something you thought you would find out in uni?
Okay, I did my undergrad degree in MMU, so I had a bunch of friends who were kind of into films, and we would go to Help Institute for Malaysian shorts every time they had screenings. And I thought I had to be that kind of filmmaker. I don't know, back then, like, it was all art films. Like everybody was trying to be really weird.
That's uni life for everyone, I think.
I know.
Everyone goes through a short film phase.
I know. So that's why when I went to New York, I thought I was going to be that kind of filmmaker.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realized everybody was trying to tell like a story that people could understand.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was really influenced by the late Yasmin Ahmad.
Yeah.
But when I went there, I was still like, okay, I really love horror films. I still do. So my first few films were really like student filmy and with like ghosts and long-haired women. It was really awful. And then like slowly in my 2nd and 3rd year, I realized, okay, I like telling like what kind of stories I do? Like drama, like human relationships, like just basic simple stories.
Yes, I was watching some of your teasers and trailers last night. So the ones that I can remember was there's that one about that girl, Japanese, I think, who was making a artwork, and then she had an affair. Yeah. And then I watched a bit of Hujan Panas, which I really liked, and then also Sub Rosa, which was really cool as well. That was New York as well.
That was
so I thought that those were really interesting, and they were kind of similar themes. That sort of, there was a female character and a bit of a love story, or a bit of like an undercurrent of a love story. What are the themes that you as a filmmaker keep coming back to, and did that match your what you're interested in more, or
are you guys on the same page when it comes to making art, or is there a difference, and is it okay to have that difference between you guys?
We used to have endless debates on what kind of films we should make, right?
Yeah.
And you would be like, oh, I'm the kind of person who would go and pay for a ticket to watch a movie in the cinema and want to be entertained.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, I'm the kind of person who wants to go to a movie and would be able to talk about the ending for hours after that.
I see. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, but I think slowly...
I think once we started developing the concept and what we want to do, it all kind of like
fell into place, and we're kind of like on the same page on certain things, kind of like I don't want to be all artsy and like weird and people won't understand, leave it hanging,
and I kind of like all the lovey-dovey stuff also, so
so it's like a mix like we try to combine stuff, so it's not too like
it should be light and entertaining, but at the same time it has content.
So it's good to have difference.
So what would be, other than Hujan Panas, like what are the other films that you guys have worked on together?
The last one was Hi, I'm Julia.
Yeah, it's short we did for Astro Hari Merdeka.
Okay.
As part of the My Hometown project, one filmmaker was picked to represent each state of their home state.
Okay.
And then everybody would come up with a short film that was shot in their home state. Yeah.
How important is location or language, or where the stuff that makes you guys you, where you grew up and stuff? How is that at all important when it comes to making a film? Does that stuff need to show in your films or shorts or work?
I think we always like to portray the local culture, especially like we like to have it, done here with the Malay language, and we don't like to have Malay speaking English in our film.
Yeah.
Some reason.
No, for some reason.
Yeah.
And I think
art direction also is very important to us.
Yeah.
And
but in terms of like the story or the content, I think in all of our films, all the films it's always been kind of personal, like all of them, literally. Like you kind of want to put something of yourself in your film.
Yeah.
What is it in your films or in your work that is something that you always go back to? There's something so meaningful that it sort of finds its way into your work.
Relationships, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, relationships, and also the issue of identity. It's always about identity of one searching oneself or trying to fit in, so it's always. I think it's sometimes it's always about that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, we don't know. Maybe we're still looking for ourselves.
That's something that comes up a lot when we talk about writing as well. Because even when we're writing about something else, that one thing that it just keeps coming back up. So you can't really suppress it. So sometimes you get mad at that one thing. You're like, why can't I write about anything else but you?
Yeah.
But then you gotta realize there's a reason it keeps coming back.
Yeah.
And, trying to find meaningful ways to keep exploring it. Yeah. Both of you were on different paths before you guys started Wayang Works. So both of you were from commercial backgrounds, but like in different areas, like advertising. Sorry, I should say. What was the shift like from doing that to deciding to do creative content and short films and feature films and stuff like that? Was it a difficult shift or a pretty natural one?
I think it made it easier because of especially because of network here, knowing people and knowing how to deal with creatives.
Yeah.
They are a whole different bunch, and having done that, it's easier to get into production.
Okay.
I think if we were to come up from school and just there's a lot of guys who are, we're working with right now who are trying to get into production who's never been in commercial or only been doing, student film. It's really hard. I don't know.
That's it in terms for you to come into production because you were like an audio engineer, and then you kind of fell naturally into production because we got married and you had to produce my stuff. It was like, okay, either I want to or not, I guess I have to, kind.
Yeah, but it's easier.
Yeah.
What part of advertising for both of you is useful in your life now as Wayang Works and being in production?
Knowing what would sell, like the way you think about things, like it's not like we restrain ourselves when we write our stories. Like, okay, I want this to appeal to this kind of crowd or that kind of crowd, but I don't know how do you explain it.
It's just being a good salesman.
Yeah, being a good salesman or coming up with something that you know that people want to buy.
It sounds like being in advertising, you have to consider at least there's an audience, there's a person on the other side.
Yes.
And you don't get carried away with I'm an artist and
no, we're not that kind at all.
So being in advertising, you guys sound like you know what people want and you know that what you do has to cater to to that.
Yes,
but a lot of time also is knowing what the client want and trying to work within that boundary. So trying to just manage the client and the creative ideas.
Yeah.
And not to be so.
But not to be sellout.
Yeah. So what do you look for when you work with other people? When you're trying to find other people to work with, either actors or people on the crew, or even musicians that.
Oh, we don't like mean people.
We don't like mean people.
No, don't like alpha males.
Yeah.
No meanies, no alpha males.
I'm not kidding.
Imagine in Malaysia, there's so many alpha males.
Especially camera
So when you deal with an alpha
camera
male,
crews,
what do you do?
dear.
It's really hard. It is really hard.
I imagine any film or any project you work on is a collaboration, and to have someone who is like too dominating, just spoils everything.
Yeah, it just spoils everything. But when we were supposed to work with this other camera guy for the first Estranged music video, but then 2 days before the shoot, he didn't answer our calls. He didn't like.
Wow.
He kind of bailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We found our current DP cinematographer. His name is Chun. He's the most amazing person.
Oh. Yeah. So he came on board like 2 days before the shoot, and then we've been working with him for a year now.
Okay.
He's really talented. We've done. I mean, so far, pretty much all the stuff that we've done for the past 1 year.
Everything with Wayang Works, we will do it with him.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we want to find out what your influences are as an artist. Like, was there one film or a song or something creative that you heard or saw, and then you were like, this is what I want to do. This is who I am.
For me, it sounds really cliche. But right after SPM, I went to a talk by Yasmin Ahmad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to do advertising, but I didn't know what in advertising. You know, there's so many like things, and but then when I watched after Sipit came out a few years after that, and I knew I kind of really wanted to do film. I would say my 2 biggest local influences would be the late Yasmin Ahmad and also Amir Muhammad, because he was like a pioneer in digital filmmaking, and he will always be there to create all his films in Malaysian shorts. So that, and when I went to New York, just getting to know people there. And
what about Yasmin Ahmad that really spoke to you? Was it her story? Was it Sepit?
I think it was Sepit, and just how simple it was, and how, for me, like when the movie works is when it can emotionally affect you. Yeah. So I feel that, you know, it really affected me emotionally, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to make films that will affect people just as much if I can. Yeah. So.
And what about you?
It's funny because I come from a really technical background, and I've never really delved into film that much until I met Nadiah. So she's my main influence.
Sound effect.
Before Nadiah introduced you to film, what was it that was like your go-to medium?
I like books and I read a lot, but
that's great.
Sorry?
Music.
But music has always been the thing. But it's okay. No, I've always been a really technical person. So I've never. Honestly, I've never really delved into like the arts until I actually met her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you just tell me a little bit about Hujam Panas, being that that's your first kind of work as Wayang Works, and I was interested to find out like where it came from, and if you could just summarize the story a little bit for these two and our audience.
So basically, it's about this guy Zaki who goes to New York on a whim. He packs like 2 suitcases and he's off to like a business course. It's supposed to be 2 weeks, but he's also engaged to be married. So, but him leaving New York was actually him trying to search for himself, whether he really wanted to get married to this girl, or or he wants to live this life back in Malaysia, or go outside and see the world and see what else there is for him. So basically it's about one searching oneself in New York.
And was that script primarily you, or did you
I'm gonna tell you about the blog.
Yeah, so when I was like, so I had to write a script. Okay, so when I was in NYU, I had written all these scripts about like Mak Salehs and like like people who weren't Malays. I was like, maybe
named Jane and
I know. I was like, maybe they should do that. God, I'm here in New York. Like, where am I going to find Malay actor? Come on. And then people wouldn't want to watch Malay stories. And I tried doing that for like the first few years, and they were all really much neither here nor there. And people were like, Nadiah, these aren't how people speak. This isn't how people speak. Your like dialogue so stunted, and like, how would I know? And they're like, okay. And then it's like, okay, maybe I should write like a Malay story, like a Malaysian story. So I came across this blog about this guy who had brought all his life savings to New York to go on a business course.
Oh.
And he stayed in a hostel in New Jersey, and then overnight he got robbed.
Oh no.
All of his
my
money,
God.
like literally everything. So he had to like live in a train for a week. So he would take a train from one end to the other.
And yeah.
Yeah. It was really crazy, and nobody wanted to help him. I think he went to the Malaysian consulate and they didn't help him.
Oh my god.
Anyway, and then I was like, that's really interesting. And he never went back to Malaysia. He never went back.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't even remember the blog anymore.
So where did he just stay on?
Yeah,
or?
he just stayed on. And I tried, like, I emailed to him, like, hey, do you want to meet? And stuff like that. And he never responded.
But that's
It's kind of creepy, again.
Yeah. But it's interesting for that story to kind of then turn into something else. Because,
Yeah.
you know,
That sounds like the beginning of a story, like you
Yeah.
going on this blog and then trying to find this person. It's like, wow. It's already like Murakami, like
Oh, yeah,
Murakami story, which
Murakami-esque.
something weird is about to happen.
Yeah, but nothing weird happened.
Going back to Hujan Panas, why is it called Hujan Panas?
Because hujan, okay, whenever it rains, it's always macam, okay, kalau panas, then macam rasa cooling kan. Tapi if it's panas and it rains, orang selalu associate dengan macam, you know, you get sick, or you're not supposed to go out and play in the rain if it's hot.
Yeah. I think it's a northern thing.
Is
Because
it?
my family's from Kedah, and it's always don't go out into that because it's hujan panas, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
So weird. So it's
Really?
like weird.
Stay at home, don't do drugs.
Don't do anything.
It's some
Well,
weird thing. It feels like it's shorthand for don't leave the house.
Yeah, even
Yeah,
my mom's
something
side in
like that.
Kelantan,
You're
they
gonna
have
get
so many
trouble.
like weird superstitions. And I think the underlying thing is just stay at home, be a good girl.
yeah, I know, it's really funny. But yeah, that was.
And how did you find the actors? Because
Oh, okay.
one girl is Indonesian, right?
Yeah, one girl is Indonesian. So, back to the story. After that whole blog thing, I tried writing a story about a Malay guy who goes to New York and then gets robbed, but it didn't really work. So that script was I think I wrote about 50 drafts of the script.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't even funny.
50 drafts? Wow.
50 drafts, and then I got my
I
friends
would
as
have given up
producers on
after
it.
3.
No, but
Yeah, you know.
It went out for about a year, right?
it went on for about a year, yeah. It started like in my class. It was called A Lonely Place to Die. Macam and then Mira.
That sounds very familiar. Lonely
Really?
Place to Die.
I don't know. I thought, and then everyone was like, "Oh, this is so morbid. You have
But
to change
then
it."
it was still white characters, or
No, it was
already
already
Zaki.
It was
Okay.
already Zaki. And then after that, I was like, okay, why don't I just write about this guy who goes to New York? And then, okay, it's also my last year in New York. Why don't I go to all the places that I really like and love to hang out and put it in the film? So it's kind of like a goodbye film. Konon at that time. After I raised enough funds, I came back that summer to raise funds and also to try and find my actor. I actually auditioned like 3 people, and Beto Pushari was one of them.
Yeah.
And Beto was recommended to me by Bernard Charlie. He wasn't well known, and then it's like kind of like a gamble if like some student comes up to you, hey, do you want to come to New York?
Yeah.
So for him to drop like some projects at that point to just come to New York, was amazing enough for me. And I never gave him the script beforehand until he got there.
Oh, wow.
Because I hadn't finished writing it.
Yeah.
Or hadn't like locked it. And then when he got there a few days, 6 days before, and then I gave him the script. And then it was kind of really cool because he'd never been to New York or the States. So he was like that bright-eyed, macam, wow, New York.
Yeah.
He was a character.
He was a
Yeah.
character. So it was really cool.
Yeah.
So that's how I found my actor, because I scout around in New York and nobody wanted to come and act for me. None of the students did.
Not the Malaysians.
None of the Malaysians.
Malaysians.
Yeah, and the Indonesian girl, I kind of put her character. Yeah, see, I told you guys. The Indonesian girl, because I really like the pronunciation of like the Indonesian language. Macam together with Malay, it sounds really nice.
It's this weird kind of like, because you're listening to the Malay, you know, and as a Malaysian, and then it slips into the Indonesian, and it sounds like a language that you've forgotten, and then you remember it again. Because I was watching the trailer, and I was like, for a second, I was like, oh, she's speaking Malay, right? But just like weirdly.
Yeah. I know.
Indonesian.
I know, so I kind of really like that. And I found her. She is her name is Mariatti, and she's actually a band booker. So she's lived in New York for a really long time. What she does is like bring Indonesian bands to New York. So I met her at a White Couple.
White Couples in the Shoes.
Yes,
She's
White Couple
she's
in
their
the
manager.
Shoes.
So
She was she brought them.
That's my favorite Indonesian band.
when
Yeah,
they
they came to New York. Even
was,
so she follows them
Yeah.
when they go out. So that's how I met her, and then I met her again through a friend, and then I auditioned her, and she fit the part, and that's how.
That's funny though, because she does seem like she has like a bit of a jaded. I've been around.
Yeah,
the block
because
quality.
she lived in New York for 15 years by then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she knew her stuff. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that's the story, but that's a really old film.
What's the hardest part of production, of making something? Making a film or a short or whatever it is you guys do together.
What is the hardest part?
Like, if you think back to the process, is there one part? Is it the same part, for all different projects, or is it different for every project?
I think the hardest part would be the ideation or the conceptualization, the writing. That is the hardest
There's always
part.
something missing until right at the very end, the night
Yeah,
before.
it's like, why can't I connect this character to that character? Why can't I connect this storyline to that storyline? Why doesn't this make sense?
Yeah.
And then you kind of like don't want to work on the rest, and it becomes really horrible for the producer because they can't start their work.
Yeah.
But I think that's the toughest, right? Because after that, everything kind of
Most
flows.
of the time we have like a script, but it's just not perfect until we start getting the cast. Maybe we lock down the location, then only it kind of like fall together.
I think when you're not rushed, sometimes the productions are rushed because of budget.
Yeah.
If you're not rushed, like Hujan Panas was a 20-minute short film shot over 6 days.
Oh, okay. Wow.
A 92-minute telemovie here is shot over 7 days.
Oh.
So you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
Like you literally that's why we try to stay away from TV because it's
The
so
pressure.
Why
the
did they only
pressure.
give you 7 days? Is it because of the budget?
It's really the budget
It's
constraint.
really the budget
7
constraint.
days.
So it's like, okay, you do 20 scenes. Like there's no time to think or
Yeah.
reflect for like a short film like that with that amount of time. Like I could still go home that night and like, okay, I had my character like this today, and maybe it's not working. I can still like do some stuff
Yeah.
like
There's
in the
room,
next day.
yeah.
There's room for like improvement, or there's room to reflect and think back.
You guys seem to be pretty global. Like you're traveling a lot. Like tomorrow, both of you are heading off to different directions, and you're filming in different locations that aren't in Malaysia. So would you consider yourself Malaysian-based, or just filmmakers who happen to be from Malaysia and live in Malaysia?
I think we would have to say we're Malaysian based.
We are very much Malaysian based.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because we haven't done any work that's.
No, I think even if you were to do something that is for not Malaysian, but it would still be a Malaysian work.
Yeah, I think we want to take pride in that. We want to try and come up.
Yeah.
We want to be like this Malaysian based.
No, we want to be
company.
Malaysian.
We want to be Malaysian. That's it.
That's fine. That's great. I think it's sometimes it's a weird question to think about, because you do wonder, like, am I just living here, or am I part of the culture and trying to make something that is from here?
Yeah, we want to make things from here.
Yeah.
Because coming back to that, like Hujan Panas was like the first Malaysian film that I did in New York.
Yeah.
And suddenly all my friends were like, wow, you can make films, you can direct. Like, I was like, gee, thanks.
I've only been doing it for kind of a while.
I know, but it's like they know. It's like it's foreign to them, and for us to come up with something really Malaysian, if we were to travel out, I think it would be more interesting to other people, because I think that's what they want to see. They don't want to see another rip-off of a Hollywood
Yeah,
film.
because it's what we have to offer. and
Yes,
it's who we are.
But is it so far, maybe not going as far back as when you guys were doing advertising, but now that you guys are Wayang Works and doing production, is it difficult? Is it the kind of difficult that's mostly rewarding?
It is very rewarding now that we're doing stuff for us.
Yeah.
Every job feels, it's there's satisfaction in it.
Yeah.
It's not like we're doing just. It doesn't feel like a job.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, how rarely do people get paid to do what they like doing.
Yeah.
So we kind of feel really blessed and lucky for that, even if it's for jobs that we don't really like.
Yeah.
But it's very rewarding at the end of the day, you know, when you see something like out of just, you know, out of talk, and then you put it on paper and suddenly it's like a whole fiasco and a circus of people come together to do this thing that appears on a screen.
Yeah.
I think it's quite rewarding.
That was this month's podcast. As usual, check out the other wonderful stuff we have here for your reading pleasure and share. Or you could just comment and tell the authors how much you've enjoyed their work. We're always looking for feedback for the things we post here. Thanks again for listening, and see you again soon next month in Issue Money.